Right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Huddersfield Planning Committee. First of all, then, membership of the committee. Await some alterations. Councillor Firth, yes.
I'm substituting for Councillor.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Iredale. Thank you. Just.
Our group is complete, Chair.
Sorry?
Our group is complete.
When you speak in future, Ken, can you just get your mic to? I couldn't. No problem.
I said our group is complete.
Thank you. Right. Can I just, before we also start, you know my name, I'm the chair here, Councillor Lyons. On my left here is the legal officer, and on my right is the planning officer. And then item 2, minutes of previous meeting. Prepared. Oh. Item 3, interest and lobbying. Can we start with Councillor McGuinn?
Yeah, I've been lobbied by Jane Simpson on yesterday about the 91300. I've been lobbied on various occasions by CV Van Mikiewicz on 91300. I was talked to some objectors to the 92565, the Lazazole application, and I advised that because I was on the planning committee, I couldn't give him any advice on it.
Thank you. You can just, rather than give the numbers, if you want to just give me the page number, that's sufficient. Makes it easier for yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Received the same emails as Councillor McGuinn on whatever page number that was.
Page 89.
For page 89. Also being lobbied on page 67 by objector, no action taken. And page 35, I'm a member of Owen Valley Parish Council, but don't take any part in their planning processes.
Thank you, Chair. 90031. Because it's gone on for such a long time, I originally worked with Conroy Brook and then with McCarthy Stone, because it was a very sensitive area. They didn't listen to anything we said, really, and that's the position. So I thought I'd better tell you that, I did see various designs over the period of years. This one before us today is nothing like what first came in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I've been had 2 emails from 2 different people, of course, for page 89. No response given.
Councillor Ardale.
None at all, Chair.
Councillor Sawa.
None, Chair. None, Chair, yeah.
Yes, on page 89, 91300, no information given, no action taken.
Yeah, page 89, emails received, no action taken.
Page 89 as well, I've received the same information. As it's in my ward, I've also had previous discussions and correspondence with the applicants, objectors, supporters, discussions with numerous people at ward meetings where this application has been discussed. I haven't given anybody my personal view on the application. I've only given guidance in terms of how to use the planning process, how to submit your representations, etc. So no advice given in that sense.
Thank you. Yes, I've just the one, same as the majority here for page 89. No action taken. Thank you. Right, we move on then to admission of the public. The public are here. Deputations, petition. Public question time.
We have one question, Chair. Yes. Turn on microphone, Mr. Chair.
Yes, it's about. I've been given conflicting
Sorry,
from.
can you just confirm who you are?
Sorry, I'm Christopher Mickwitz. I'm resident at Newhouse Hall, and this is conflicting information I've been given by planning officers regarding whether access rights to our property by us and the public are part of the planning process. There's legitimate vehicular access to Newhouse Hall along the lane, including bin wagons, delivery wagons, emergency service, etc., visitors at our house and our own vehicles. Now, the access lane is shared with the public footpath, which is used by walkers, school children, guided walking tours, dog walkers, people doing their shopping at Asda. And previously, all vehicles had the opportunity to turn around and access and egress driving forward. The planned fence effectively creates a dead end. As there's no way of turning a vehicle around, all these vehicles will have to... I'm getting to the question. I need to make the point, otherwise the question will not be clear. We'll have to reverse, at least to the rear entrance of Our Lady of Lords School or bigger wagons to Bradley Boulevard. And this puts road users, pedestrians at greater risk.
Sorry to interrupt.
Now,
This isn't a question.
It is. I have raised the matter repeatedly with highways and planning officers, but my concerns have been ignored, or they were saying it is not a planning matter, or I was told this is a private matter between us and the applicants. So my question is this part of the planning process, clarification? Is it a planning matter, is it a private matter, or have you as councillors on the planning matter and planning office a responsibility to all users of this public right-of-way?
From what I understand, you're asking about public rights to use the footpath.
And the
on the public
Yes.
footpath.
Yes.
That is a planning matter, yes.
Okay.
The public footpath exists with rights of way there.
But
Any further than that, your rights to access and egress your property is a private land law matter.
Right, but there is a safety issue to all users of the public right-of-way because, as you've seen, the lane is very narrow, and a big wagon reversing down that lane will put all users at an increased risk to what it is at present.
This isn't really a procedural question. I've answered the question about footpath use. The question of highway safety in the context of a planning application is dealt with in the report. It isn't a public question, which is procedural. You're asking if you've been misinformed. That was your question. That was a procedural question. Is it a planning matter or not? Use of the footpath, the public footpath, yes it is. Private access and egress rights to your property, no it's not.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on then to the site visits which we've had, yes. Local Planning Authority appeals.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Teresa Harlow, Planning Officer. There's 5 appeals to report at agenda item 11. You'll see that they were all dismissed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then we've got an item here from the solicitor.
If I could refer members, please, to the final page of the update. There is a note there from matters arising from the committee on the 23rd of November 2017, which is a long time ago. And at that committee, members resolved to downgrade the footpath Huddersfield 231 from a byway open to all traffic, which was how it was recorded on the definitive map and statement, as a bridleway, as a boat, byway open to all traffic. Members resolved at that meeting, on the evidence they had before them at that time, to downgrade it to a bridleway. Since then, 2 years later, the application is going to be determined by the Secretary of State, who is holding an inquiry. The Council has employed an expert witness and barrister to represent the council in that inquiry, which commences in January 29th, 2019. However, the statement of case, the council's case, has to be with the Secretary of State by the 23rd of October, which has just gone. During the course of preparations by the expert witness for that inquiry, the expert witness accessed evidence which leads the expert witness to suggest that the way should support only footpath rights. Consequently, the statement of case by the council with that evidence has gone forward now, expressing the case that the byway open to all traffic should be downgraded not to a bridle way, as the committee resolved, but to a footpath. And so the Chief Executive used emergency powers to allow a statement of case to go in with the new evidence. And but that's only an interim decision, because if we had not put the statement of case in, it would have had consequences in costs. It wouldn't have been accepted by the inspector. So that has been done. It's contrary to your decision on the 27th of November 1 year ago rather. And so we're bringing back another report on the 13th of December for you to look at that new evidence which has been found and to hopefully endorse that decision. But this matter now is just for you to note and to make you aware of action that has been taken.
All right, thank you. We'll move on then to page 35, which is the planning application with reference to Pickledon Mills, Woodhead Road, Holmfirth.
Thank you, Chair. Victor Grayson, Senior Planning Officer, Majors and Minerals Team. This is a Section 73 application submitted by the applicant McCarthy and Stone, who seek permission for various amendments to a previously approved scheme approved in 2013 under Condition 2 of that previous permission and the deletion of Part I of Condition 20. That 2013 permission was for a development of 46 age-restricted apartments, a new bridge, parking areas, landscaping and related engineering works. This application has been brought to committee at the request of Councillor Patrick. The site was visited this morning. The site is in the valley bottom to the west of Holmfirth town centre. The site has been cleared. The 2013 permission has been commenced and implemented. Most of the site is in the Holmfirth conservation area, and there are 2 listed buildings to the north of the site. I hope you can see the arrow pointed to them. Most of the site is located on the north bank of the River Holme. There are residential properties on higher ground to the north of the site. Of note in this photograph is the poor condition of the river walls. Part of the site is also on the south bank of the River Holme, and this is roughly where the committee bus parked this morning. The site has vehicular access from Woodhead Road and from Lower Mill Lane. Both accesses can be seen in this photograph. Much of the site is flat. The site's been cleared, but the mill pond survives beyond these evergreen bushes in this photograph. Existing retaining walls around the site have a poor appearance and use a variety of materials. There is, however, a neat stone wall and railings along Lower Mill Lane, adjacent to the site. Now, just to clarify what is not proposed under this application, artificial stone is no longer proposed in the elevations and retaining walls of the development. That was previously proposed but has been withdrawn by the applicant. There is now no reduction in parking spaces proposed, and the applicants no longer propose the deletion of Condition 12, which dealt with drainage. So the proposal involves various changes under condition 2 of the 2013 permission. First of all, the proposal includes the repositioning of blocks A and B 1 metre to the north-east. This raises no design or amenity concerns. The applicants also propose reduced infilling of the mill pond. Previously, the applicants proposed to infill the east end of the mill pond up to where the island currently is. The applicants now propose to fill in approximately 60 square metres in the north corner of the mill pond. This is welcomed. It's supported by planning policies that seek the retention of water bodies. Just to clarify where those blocks A and B are, it's the 2 most southerly blocks of the 5. The applicants also proposed to reroute the Riverside Walk that was approved in 2013. It was proposed or approved to run in front of blocks A and B along the river, part of that route would be carried by a cantilevered walkway extending over the water. The applicants proposed to delete that cantilevered walkway and instead take the Riverside Walk around the back of blocks A and B through the car park. This has pros and cons. On the one hand, a Riverside Walk really should hug the river wherever possible, and the car park is obviously a less attractive environment for pedestrians to walk through. On the other hand, this proposal would protect the amenities of the ground floor residents of blocks A and B. They would no longer have members of the public walking past their ground floor windows, and it would also enable a step-free riverside route to be provided. There were previously 3 steps in the cantilevered walkway in the 2013 approved scheme. Also, the walkway will be better overlooked on both sides by residents of the new development. So overall, it's considered that the benefits of that rerouting outweigh the concerns, and it's noted that it's not a significant length of the Riverside Walk that would be rerouted. Elevational changes are proposed. These include open projecting balconies replacing enclosed balconies, deletion of projecting window columns, and simplified materials. Ashlar would be replaced with coarse stone throughout the 5 blocks. These changes are considered acceptable and do not raise concerns in terms of their impact on the character and appearance of the conservation area. And just to illustrate the changes, this is what was approved in 2013. I'll just toggle between the 2. This is what's now proposed. 2013, now proposed. The differences aren't that significant. Landscaping changes are proposed to accommodate the reduced mill pond infilling, the relocation of blocks A and B, and the deletion of the detached residence lounge at the west end of the site. These raise no significant concerns, although full details will still need to be provided at condition stage. Changes to boundary treatments are proposed. Dry stone walls, concrete walls faced with natural stone, and iron and steel railings set in natural stone are proposed. Railings along the river would reflect those already installed along Lower Mill Lane, and railings set into stone are also proposed now along the edge of the mill pond. There is a stretch indicated by this pink line on the drawing of low wall that would be rendered and be given or topped with artificial stone copings, but that's a low wall at the back of the site adjacent to the yellow line, which is going to be a high retaining wall, and it's enclosed, the low wall would be enclosed by blocks C and D, so it's very much a low, discrete, enclosed wall that wouldn't be visible from public vantage points, and therefore that's considered acceptable. Similarly, Riverside elevations show acceptable design details and materials for the banks of the river. Again, natural stone would be used, although concrete would have to be used behind the natural stone facings. For the site's southwestern edge, a soil nailing retention solution is proposed. However, the metal plates of the soil nails would not be visible. These would instead be screened by stone-filled baskets and planting, which would be required by condition. Condition 20, Part I, as mentioned earlier, required the provision of a zebra crossing to Woodhead Road between Hollowgate and Victoria Street. The committee report currently before members did not include a recommendation to approve deletion of condition 20I, as circumstances have not materially changed since the committee previously determined that a zebra crossing was required. However, the committee update now includes an amended recommendation to approve this deletion, subject to a £25,000 contribution being added to the Section 106 obligations to be spent on improvements to accessibility in Holmfirth Town Centre. Subject to consultation with ward members and highways officers, this may be put towards upgrades to existing zebra crossings in Holmfirth. It's also recommended that the Section 106 agreement is linked to the Section 106 agreement of the 2013 permission, but also it's recommended that it includes provision of public access to the Riverside Walk and Bridge in perpetuity, which wasn't secured in 2013. And it's also recommended to include the construction management provisions that were previously considered by the committee in 2006, which were in fact never secured as the relevant Section 106 was never completed. Objections have been received from 3 residents. The concerns are addressed in the committee report, but of note the principle of development is not to be revisited here. The applicant can continue implementing the 2013 permission, which represents a fallback position and a material consideration to which significant weight must be given. Also of note, intensification of the use of the site and vehicle movements would not increase as a result of the current proposals. The recommendation to approve is made as per the committee update, and it's also recommended that the 2013 conditions be reapplied but amended where necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There's obviously been some changes since I drafted my little speech about 2 hours ago. So as I go through this, I shall try and react to the changes accordingly. This is a controversial application for 2 reasons. One, the access to the site via Holligate and Lower Mill Lane is substandard. Most residents on Lower Mill Lane were against the original application. And 2, the design of the development will dominate the conservation area in the centre of town. If it's not designed properly, it will become an eyesore. We already have one ugly building in the town, we don't want another. Section 106 contributions have reduced dramatically since the first approval in 2013. If I remember rightly, it took the first applicant just 6 months to submit a viability application to remove most of the agreed Section 106 conditions before the site was sold on. Now the current applicant is nibbling away at the remaining Section 106 agreements, presumably to maximise profits. He wants to reroute the Riverside Walk away from the Riverside through a car park. I think that's totally silly. Not sure people walking past windows is such a big problem. There are plenty of homes in the centre of Holmfirth where people end up walking past windows. He wants to delete the highways works. He wants to delete the... Yeah, highway safety and access remains an issue. Now, here we have the update from the zebra crossing to meet my request for improvements to disabled access in the town, £25,000. It's not a lot of money. It won't go very far, but I appreciate that he's willing to do that. If you look at the history of the site under Section 4 in the report, you can see how successive applications nibbled away at the original approval, downgrading materials. Anything to reduce the cost of developing the site, but no reduction in the number of units. I think if this application had come to planning in the first place, it may well have been refused. This is Holmfirth Conservation Area, right in the middle of the town, and it will be a highly visible site. I objected to the original application on highways grounds, but we are now beyond that point, as it has planning permission for the 46 units. I think it's important, though, that being next to 2 Grade 2 listed buildings, this site should be a high-quality development, and and also here I am struggling again because of the upgrades. The materials should be high quality throughout. I do note that there's been a change in the upgrade that the artificial stone has come out, but the officer did point out that there will still be some areas where dry stone walls will be replaced with concrete retaining walls, rendered walls, artificial stone copings, and whilst I recognise the excuse being that it won't be seen from public gaze, I think I personally think all these little tiny alterations are going to have an impact on that site, and it's a real pity. It's a real pity that this developer doesn't recognise the importance of the conservation area in the centre of Holmfirth and actually build us something that fits in, instead of, you know, saving a little bit here and saving a little bit there, putting metal fencing in instead of dry stone walls, using concrete parapets on the bridge. You know, what will that look like? So I would really like committee to ask the developer to not stinge on this site and to go back and come back with a much better application as regards design. There's one other thing before I finish.
Thank you, Councillor.
Just one other thing before I finish.
That's your time. I've got to be strict. I'm strict with everybody. So that's it. Thank you. Members, when it works. Councillor Sim.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Obviously, Councillor Patrick has gone through all the stuff. I've been on this planning application from the outset when Conroy and Brooke brought it in. We told them at that time that that site was a difficult site, and he still pushed on with it, and he got it passed in detriment to what the ward councillors thought. High-rise buildings in a conservation area in the middle of Holmfirth, in our most main tourist areas in the town, totally out of character. Wasn't very long before he came back and nearly everything he was going to give us off that plan application he took out. And then he sold it on. And he sold it on to MacArthur Stone, and we tried to talk to them and tried to impress on them what a sensitive site it was. However, it was to no avail, because, you know, they came back with all the sort of things, you know, artificial stone and what have you, and that just won't do. It won't do at all. What we've got to see here, and I hope committee backs me up on this, that it has to be local stone throughout, not imported stone. We've had some of that from Derbyshire and whatever. It's pink and it won't fit in. It is a conservation area, so that conservation area is Yorkshire stone, and this development wants to be Yorkshire stone throughout. It wants to be proper dry stone walling. It's a conservation area again. It needs to be done right. The 106 agreement originally has more or less been completely wiped out, so we're taking all the pain and there's no gain for any of the residents on this site. And it is going to be a difficult site. As members saw, as they took the bus on, we took it on Allowgate and right through to the end, they are proposing that all works traffic comes through there. Heavy wagons, everything through there. And they're proposing to close it while that happens. And it's already been passed by highways that it's okay. So what I'm saying again is, I think it's only right that we should condition that the householders and the businesses on there get compensated for the closures when they lose business, when they lose partial access to the homes, etc., while this site traffic's going on. And I'm not talking about £50. I think each one should be given somewhere near about £1,000 for all the things that's going to happen. My other worry is, and I saw the old mill when it was there, and I saw the building of what's there now. That highway through, after you go through Holligate, onto the site there, wasn't made to take substantial traffic. It was only made to take traffic of those houses. Now the traffic's going to be heavy goods and that, and I'm worried about that may collapse. Nobody's tested that, and I'm really worried about that. So all in all, we've got a bad deal here, unless we do something about it. And I think really the other thing that I've looked at, and nobody's mentioned it, when it first came in, they proposed that people going into those flats there would be 55 or over. If you notice now, they've taken that out. They want it to be anybody. So therefore, the light weight of traffic that would be going in and out of there, supposedly, if the 55s are over, is going to be increased, because there could be young tycoons or whatever going in those flats overlooking a beautiful town. So I think there's something there that's been quietly hidden away. So what I'm suggesting is a condition on for local stone throughout, not imported. Proper dry stone, local stone walls and walks. Reinstatement of the Riverside Walk, which was originally put in there, which was a benefit for a tourist town, that if they walked along the river, that would be a benefit. They've even taken that away, so I think that ought to be reinstated, really. To try and make this carbuncle that it's going to be, try and make it fit in with a conservation in the middle of a market town and a very busy tourist town. It could actually kill the tourism on that end of town. So that's what I propose, Chair. I hope I get a seconder for that. We tried to work with both these companies during this development, and they listened and actually did nothing. That's very worrying. And I think officers do realise, but not enough, that this is a conservation area in a very sensitive spot. Also, I see they're only going to partially fill the mill pond. The mill pond, I can go with that, but that mill pond wants keeping, because it's a compensation tank, really, for flooding. And as we know, we've had major floods down that river that took half a town away. So we don't want to be taking that compensation water away, and we want to make sure the drainage of this site is done correctly, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Chair. This application going on for the last 4 or 5 years now, yeah? We still see the derelict site over there. I've been twice on the site visit this morning, yeah? I think the issue is now, these 46 units proposed for the restricted age, yeah? I've been on the coach this morning. When we were going through on the narrow road, there were both side parking there, right? And I've seen some cars parked over the pavement. But if these proposed units are for restricted age, it might be over 55 or 55. Some of those residents might need a wheelchair, or they might need something other there. But when you see the road on the both sides, the pavement, I don't think it's up to date to use for those elderly people up there. There is a need to improve those payments on both sides. So we should ask the developer to put extra Section 106 money to improve the highways in both sides, because that road is leading to Home Park Town Centre. Yeah. I'm happy to see the developer have changed mind from artificial stone to natural stone. But again, I support Councillor Ken Sims. They should use local Yorkshire stone, because that's other building matching with that. So, if we are in mind to approve this application, because it's going on far too long, we need to put some condition on there. The developer have to start building this building and have to start use this natural stone to match with other building. So I support Councillor Ken Sims on this issue. Thank you.
Any further speakers? Oh, Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know whether Councillor Sokol seconded. Councillor Sims are not there, but if he didn't, I will. Including the improvements of the pavements as well, because I don't think Councillor Sims mentioned that. I were on the site visits this morning, but I do know that site extremely well. I know what the road is like down there. And I would suggest that it is looked at, and just whether it will take that volume of traffic, because it is narrow and it is. I don't think it was designed for that much traffic to go down, as Councillor Sims has mentioned. It was just designed that bit for the very few houses that are down there. But I'm more than happy to second Councillor Sims with the added bit of the pavements as well.
Before we go any further, I've been told that only over 55s are actually living in those houses. The other matter that would come back with regard to the highways. Highways have already said that it's all right. Now, if anything collapses down there, the company will be responsible for it while they're doing the construction. Obviously, the traffic will be nowhere near as heavy, vehicle-wise, as what it would be during construction. So, those are two factors. Anybody else? No, you. Well, I don't know about correct me, but you can certainly come with
because it does say in this report that they want to remove that it's only over 55s. That means, well, it does.
Not according to my legal assistance here.
Right. Well, I've seen it in here somewhere.
Through you, Chair, it's on paragraph 1033 of the report. 1033.
Yeah. No, it's not that. It's one about the age of the occupants in that. I'll find it and give it you. Don't worry.
Are there any other contributions? I'm trying to get... Councillor Firth.
Chair, I didn't go to site visit. I couldn't this morning. I have other things to do. But we are not revisiting this full application again. We're looking at the variations as suggested in the paper. And I've looked at them. Colleagues have amended them slightly. And so can I move that the variations be approved with the amendments brought by colleagues?
I've been informed we can't just add new conditions. We're going to need to go back to for some more support here.
Well, through you, Chair, it's just the clarification. The points that Councillor Sims and Councillor Sokol raised One was regarding the materials for use, and it's the actual type of natural stone that was going to be used. So one of the conditions is to do with material samples and to take on board what councillors say about the matching stone to match with the Yorkshire area. So that was one. The second one was dry stone walling. So where it says dry stone walling, it is dry stone walling. Another one related in a way to the construction management plan and the discharge of condition that's previously been reported and approved by this committee. So there is already a scheme for construction management along Lower Mill Lane that has been approved. Matters to do with compensating residents cannot be controlled under the planning process. That cannot be part of this, so that isn't something that we can take into account by condition.
Chair, can I just...
I've got that one. Yeah, I've got I'm getting on to that.
There must be something, because if the gas board comes along and does it to compensate them, these businesses are going to be closed. That's unfair in this time that they close that road and those businesses can't work. And the householders will be difficult in entering, etc.
Through you, Chair, I understand that and I appreciate that, but that isn't...
We can't condition or control a putative compensation claim because of a road closure. As part of our job here is to control and mitigate those effects, and we've done that through a 106 with a construction management 106. We can't deal with compensation as part of the planning process.
One of the other things that was mentioned was to restrict occupation to the over 55s. That was covered in the section 106. And this application would have to link to the principal section 106 from 2013, and that would be controlled. And we understand that, and that is part of this application. The final thing that was mentioned was regarding moving the Riverside Walk back to its original alignment. But that isn't the scheme that is before members here, and that is not what is shown on the plans. So don't think that is a condition on this one, because it's not the plans before members, and what's before members is to look at the revised plans that were submitted under condition 2.
But technically, Chair, if they don't want to do this one, they'll revert back to the old one where the walkway is along the riverside. Am I correct? Yeah? Right. Part of the gain that we got, Chair, from this was such as that, which helps amend the whole site that doesn't fit in, really, to help the situation of tourists and that, being able to walk alongside that riverfront.
I mean, we're not talking. Well, I would say we're not talking a lot of a length here. We're only what we're talking about 50, 60 metres, if that. I don't see. But anyway, we are where we are. I want some sort of movement forward now.
Councillor Firth, you were supporting Councillor Sims and Councillor Sockhall in all respects, apart from the Riverside Walk. Is that my case? Or when you said I supported their amendments, that was one of them?
Yeah, can I just ask on that though, if we don't accept the diverted footpath and we send it all back, is the £25,000 lost?
Well, the application before you today, which you can either approve, refuse or defer, includes the diverted Riverside Walk. The other elements, the other amendments, the minor amendments which has been suggested, there are already conditions relating to materials, as the planning officer has said, but the application before us includes that diversion, so it's refuse, approve or defer.
Come on, I'm looking for something now.
I'm going to move officer recommendation.
Is that seconded?
With
the conditions that we've got.
Can we include all those conditions that we talked about?
The officer recommendation with the realigned Riverside Walk with a note about Yorkshire stone being used for materials, the dry stone walling and the over 55 restrictions, they will all be part of it, yes, if that's what you want. Yeah.
Is that seconded? You second that? All those in favour, please show. Against? Your Councillor Firth, can you just turn your... Right, move on now then to item 13, page 53, which is Lidgett Street, Lindley.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application relating to the former site of Oakmead, 1C Lidgett Street, Lindley. It's an application for outline planning permission with all matters reserved for residential development. The applicant seeks renewal of an outline permission previously granted in 2015, but which has now expired. No indicative site layout has been submitted, nor has an indicative number of units been suggested by the applicant. The indicative access is from Lidgett Street, partly shared with the commercial development to the north, and 1B Lidgett Street. This application has been brought to committee as the site is larger than 0.5 hectares in size. The site is unallocated in the Kirklees UDP, but is allocated for housing in the emerging local plan. The site's red line boundary is almost the same as the boundary of the site allocation. The site is not in a conservation area, but there are listed buildings shown outlined in blue on this map to the east. In purple along the west side of the site is a public right-of-way. The Oakmead Centre that previously occupied the site, as shown in this older aerial photograph, was used for children's and community services. This has since been demolished. This more recent aerial view shows the cleared site. It also shows works being carried out to what was Fairhead and which is now Manor House, that has recently been converted to a wedding venue, restaurant, bar, visitor accommodation, community venue and an ancillary car park. The site already shares vehicular access with Manor House and 1B Lidgett Street. This is the view of the site from the public right-of-way to the west. St Stephen's Church is there in the middle of the picture. This is another view of the back of Manor House, or the side of Manor House, from the public right-of-way. This is a view within the site. Previously, the Community Service, Children's and Community Services building occupied the land in the middle of that picture. And this is a view north from within the application site, looking at 1B Lidgett Street and part of the Manor House site. So in terms of land use and the principle of development, residential use of the site has previously been approved by the council and the site is allocated for housing in the local plan. The site has some constraints, but there is no reason why these can't be satisfactorily addressed at reserved matter stage. Development here has the potential to impact upon adjacent heritage assets, but a sensitive layout and design can be secured at reserved matter stage. Residential development here can be designed to avoid unacceptable impacts on existing residential properties nearby. The use of Manor House is a constraint, so any reserved matter stage design will need to ensure that new residents are not unacceptably impacted by noise from that commercial business to the north. No objections have been raised by highways officers to the principle of residential development in this site, at this site. Detailed consideration will be necessary, however, at reserved matter stage once layout and unit numbers are known. As all matters are reserved, concerns raised by the lead local flood authority would need to be factored into a layout brought forward at reserved matters stage. There are no ecological and tree-related reasons for withholding outline planning permission. No objections have been received from residents. Recommendation is to approve subject to conditions, including conditions regarding affordable housing, public open space, education, highways and drainage, and also the condition regarding electric vehicle charging referred to in the committee update. Thank you.
We have Nick Willett, who's the agent.
Thank you, Chair. Members, Nick Willock of Robert Halstead's agent for the applicant. Some members may recall that this site was council-owned land sold with outline planning permission for residential development, and the current application is identical to the permission approved and merely seeks to continue that planning permission for another 3 years. And at the time of the previous application, it's important to note that the planning application for Fieldhead adjacent for the wedding venue, bar and restaurant was known about at that time. They were considered at the same time, so the earlier permission was granted in the full knowledge of what the proposed use of Fieldhead would be. In that regard, although Environmental Health have again raised the issue about the proximity of the two land uses, the Council were fully aware of that adjacent use when granting permission on their own land, and as such there's no material changes in circumstances. There's nothing more to add really to what Mr Grayson said, so we just respectfully ask that members support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Members. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Chair. It's pretty straightforward. This we're just renewing what we previously approved, so I move the recommendation.
Councillor Sokol.
Chair, can I ask? Recently, we have granted so many housing applications in the Lindley area, but the situation we reached there, I'm not against the application, situation reached there by school admission there. There's only Lindley, the other school is oversubscribed now. Even the residents living in the area vicinity to the schools, they are not in the catchment, they are not getting any school admission there. What I'm going to ask you, I know there is no number of units on this application. I know it's an outline application so far. Can we ask the officer, and when you come to the actually full detailed application to the committee, can we ask the developer to put some more Section 106 money on education contribution, either to put some more classroom on the Lindley schools, or to spend some money to. So on this, if we put a condition on there, I don't know, we can put a condition on there, no, but we need some more contribution towards education in Lindley school. I know it's not my board, but I feel that.
I do believe the officers do their best every time, and I'm sure this won't be any exception. Any further? It's been moved. It's seconded, Councillor Homewood. No further. All those in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions? One abstention. Never mind. Right. Now on to page... Sellers Clough Mill.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Fazana Tabassum. I'm the case officer for this application. The application relates to the site of the former Sellers Clough Mills, which lies between the Huddersfield Narrow Canal to the north here and to the River Colne to the south here. The application has been brought to committee as it exceeds 0.5 hectare in area. Access to the site is from Manchester Road here, down a steep road leading to a steel bridge which crosses over the River Colne, and a footbridge which provides access over the mill ponds to the residential properties northeast of the application here. The access road and footbridge also carry public rights of way as shown in purple on this aerial view. A number of other public rights of way in close vicinity of the site are also shown in purple on this aerial view. I'll run through some site photos to provide the context of the site, which will give an indication of how the site previously looked and how it looks now in its current poor state, which is secured by security fencing. So this is a view of the site in how it looked with the full mill buildings and the mill ponds here. This is the footbridge that crosses the mill ponds. This is an aerial view taken from Park Gate Road from the south, just showing how the mill building looked in context of the area. This is the current state of the mill building. This is the northern elevation along the canal side. This is a wall against the towpath and canal. This is the eastern elevation and the southern elevation. Again, the southern elevation, you can see some of the mill building has been demolished or collapsed in areas. This is a view from within the site looking towards the east, where you can see some of these trees which are protected by tree preservation orders. This is a view of the mill building from the footbridge. This is a view from Manchester Road. This is the current access into the site. This is looking towards down Manchester Road towards Slathwaite. This is looking up and into the site. The next few slides will be just showing the access road into the site. This is a retaining wall along Manchester Road. As you can see, the steep topography of the site and the access road. Just going further down. This leads to the steel bridge over the River Colne, and this is looking down at the steel bridge from the steps serving the footbridge. Again, the footbridge, these are Sandhill cottages, northeast. These are the overgrown mill ponds. With a few site photos. So this is an aerial view of what's currently remaining on site and showing areas of hard standing. The site lies in an area of greenbelt on the UDP and emerging local plan. As it is previously developed land, it is classed as brownfield site. The majority of the site also lies in flood zone 2 and in part falls within flood zone 1 and 3. The woodland areas adjacent to the site, to the east here and here, between Manchester Road and the site, also form part of the Kirklees Wildlife Habitat Network on the emerging local plan. Permission is sought for the demolition of the remaining mill buildings and erection of 5 residential units. This will consist of 5 two-storey apartment blocks situated along the northern boundary here, 1 detached dwelling, plot 39, and 4 short blocks of terraces as shown on this layout along the River Colne here. The layout will also include 2 areas of public open space along the northern boundary here and in the central part of the site. The proposals will also include widening of the access to the junction with Manchester Road, as shown on this slide, to provide a new right turn into the access. Other associated highway works are to bring the access road to adoptable standards with a provision of a 1.8 metre wide footway along the bottom side of the access road here, 2 pedestrian islands to be provided within Manchester Road here and here, improvements to 2 other existing public footpaths. These are just outside the application red line but within a blue line in ownership of the applicant. That's one of the public rights of way and this is the other. A passing place will be provided past the steel bridge within the site here and the relocation of the steps to the footbridge to provide adequate manoeuvrability for service vehicles. Drainage and surface water proposals have been submitted with associated works which will include infilling a smaller mill pond here with an area to be left for wetland habitat in the interest of ecology. This slide indicates the soft and hard landscape proposals for the site. Just to give members a background of the previous permissions on this site, in 2008 permission was granted for demolition of ancillary mill structures and conversion of the main mill building to provide 110 residential flats, 9 live work units together with communal facilities with associated highway works. This permission was extended in 2011. Turning to the current proposals, the reasons for accepting the principle of developing this site are set out in detail in paragraphs 10.1 to 10.2 of the committee report. So in brief, the redevelopment of this brownfield site, where there are no drivers to maintain the building in its current dangerous part demolished collapse form, at a time when the council is unable to demonstrate 5-year housing land supply, is considered acceptable. This is also based on the supporting information which satisfies the sequential and exceptions test in relation to flood zones, and in the layout, scale, design together with associated works, subject to mitigation measures to be conditioned, would, on balance, not have a greater impact on the openness of the Greenbelt, in accordance with the relevant policies of the UDP Emerging Local Plan and guidance within the NPPF. Turning to visual amenity issues, the proposals, in particular the apartments, to be of linear form against the northern boundary with external stone finish, and in the massing proposed would reflect the historic character of the mill building. In addition, replacement tree planting would mitigate the impact of the engineered works to the access road. In the layout proposed, the scheme would meet the objectives in respect of spaces between buildings and provide adequate external amenity areas for the future occupants of the site and existing occupants of surrounding development in this area. Turning to associated highway works, the proposals have been revised to ensure the access is to be made to adoptable standards, adequate parking provision and space for service vehicle movements can be provided on site. With regards to prowls, the improvements to 2 prowls outside the application red line are welcomed, and the relocation of the steps to the footbridge is supported. However, the applicant has been advised that a formal diversion of this will need to be obtained and written evidence of this to be provided before closure and removal of the existing steps. This is to be conditioned should members approve the application. Improvements are also to be conditioned to the towpath along the canal side as set out in paragraphs 10.36 and 10.37, along with payment to be secured towards the provision of a bus shelter and its maintenance at bus stop number 19375 for Manchester Road. To summarise, on highway works, subject to the conditions set out in the committee report, the proposals are considered to address highway safety issues. With regards to drainage and flood risk, the supporting information includes indicative surface water proposals, associated works to ancillary structures, including inlet and outlets, the mill pond, and future maintenance and management of the mill pond and associated structures. The Council's lead local flood authority officer and the Environment Agency are in support of the indicative proposal, subject to appropriate conditions and an acceptable Section 106, which will need to include the setting up of a private management company for the maintenance of the SUDs and the mill pond as set out in the committee report. Yorkshire Water and Canal and River Trust, subject to their suggested conditions as set out in the committee report, are also supportive of the proposals. Ecology and tree issues are fully addressed in the committee report. Subject to the conditions set out again in the committee report, this would compensate for the tree loss and the impact on the Kirklees wildlife habitat network from the proposed engineered highway works. 27 objections are received, including 2 referred to in the committee update. Finally, the proposals would provide contributions towards education, POS, highway works improvements and maintenance of and management of SUDs associated with drainage infrastructure and affordable housing. If I can just point out to members, just make them fully aware that the applicant has requested that off-site contribution towards affordable housing as an alternative to on-site provision be sought. However, our officers are of the opinion that for a policy compliance scheme, affordable housing will be sought on site should members be supportive of the application. To conclude, the proposals have responded and been designed to taking into account the identified constraints on and adjacent to the site. The final revised scheme, subject to conditions set out in the report, is considered to be a more viable scheme when compared to the previous permissions and would potentially facilitate the redevelopment of a site that has been lying dormant for a number of years. If I can also just make members aware, there's an amendment to condition number 3 in the update to include details of the roofing materials. Finally, the recommendation is for approval, subject to securing a Section 106 agreement to cover matters as set out in the report, which includes for on-site affordable housing. Thank you, Chair.
David Story, the item.
Thank you, Chair, members. My name is David Story. I'm a Chartered Town Planner speaking on behalf of the applicants. You've got a comprehensive committee report here, and you've had a comprehensive presentation by your officers. This application was submitted back in August 2016, and whilst the principle of development has been accepted with previous permissions, it nevertheless presents a number of challenges in terms of technical issues. And we've worked closely with your officers on drainage matters, along with the Environment Agency, on highway matters, on design matters, and on the principal matters, where what you see before you today is a scheme that is fully policy compliant. As a site in the green belt, the test is to ensure that the impact on openness is no greater than the existing. And you've seen from the history of the site and the chronology of photographs, there was a substantial mill on this site. The end result is that what you see in terms of the final layout is that the footprint and volume is less than existing, and that complies with the requirements in MPPF. The scheme itself is for fewer units than the previously approved scheme, which total of 119 units. This is 55 units. The technical issues have all been addressed in this submission. We're looking at, picking up on points that we talked about regarding Prickle and Mill, looking at natural stone and reusing a lot of the stone from the building that's been retained there. The design itself and the philosophy has been to try and reflect the mill character on the canal side, and obviously then you've got a different approach on the river side, and that's why we've gone for the sort of central soft landscaping area to give a demarcation between those two areas and not to have a sea of parking in that place. Here's a site that is long overdue regeneration, and this scheme gives the site a chance of that being achieved. In terms of consultations, all statutory consultees are supportive and all non-statutory consultees are supportive. I would hope that you can support the recommendation of your officers. Thank you, Chair.
Members. Councillor Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. Right. I have to agree something needs doing with this site, and I am quite supportive of something being done with it and some houses and things being built down there and all the rest of it, but I do have a concern, and it is the highways and it is the road. And something that seemed to be completely eluded up there was that you did mention Manchester Road, you mentioned the entrance. What you all seem to forget is there's a junction across that's called Stubbing, which is very, very narrow. It has no right turn coming from the west, but it does have a left turn out, and it's a really, really bad junction. Now, I don't think any of the members here, well, some of them will, quite aware, and the pictures didn't show that junction that goes across because it runs parallel to Manchester Road for a fair bit. So, and I don't think a lot of members will understand how that junction works or any of that. Nell obviously will because she lives up that way, and a few might. So, what I'm going to actually suggest is, I'm going to say, is there any possibility that we could perhaps have a deferral for a site visit so other members could see that junction? And could Highways just have another further look at what could be done with that? Because I think it's going to be extremely dangerous. It's completely practically opposite to that picture you had on before. It's more or less opposite. It's there. You can just see it on the left. Now, I know there's no right turn if you're coming west to east. You can't do a right turn there, but you can come out of there and you can turn left. It's narrow. It's basically single track. Nobody in their right mind literally does drive out of that junction, but people do, and occasionally you are redirected down by the police, because I have been myself. But that is going to be an issue when you've got 55 houses down there, and that is known as, before the M62, that corner was known as one of the worst corners in the whole of West Yorkshire. So I would prefer a deferral.
Thank you for that. What I'd like to do, just give the Highways just a chance to try and ameliorate some of what you've just said. But he might well agree that we might need a site visit. But I'm prepared to listen to him, and I hope you are.
Through you, Chair, Jamie Turner, Highways Development Management. Well, I think the site will have been looked at as a whole. So, I mean, people coming out of this site will be able to see vehicles coming from the existing road and vice versa. The sight lines are provided out well within. So Ben, yeah, the existing road, the sight lines are probably substandard, but the actual site that we're looking at, yeah, but that's not changing. What's changing is the other side of the road where you can see what's going on. There's nothing. The existing road won't change. That's there. So all that's happening is we're introducing an existing junction where drivers will be able to see people on Manchester Road and almost directly across, anyone wishing to access or exit that existing highway. That's all.
Councillor Homewood.
Can I just, so I've listened to what both said there. Can I just check from what Councillor Bellamy is saying? Are you saying that because of that you don't think development in that area is appropriate, or are you saying that you think there needs to be some changes to that road? And do you have an idea of what that would be?
What I was suggesting is we move deferral and Highways just also, so other members can see, and Highways just look at that Stubbing junction in conjunction with everything else they've looked at. I'm not against the development per se down there at all, but something needs doing. Some more needs doing with the highway there.
I'll second that deferment, Chair.
You second that, did you say? I'm looking round now. It's been moved and seconded for deferral as this, just on the highway. On the highways. Yep. My only fear here is, though, if the highways officer says it isn't unsafe, where do we go from there?
Well, it's my opinion that this development is providing the sightlines that are required for that access. That access is new and is fine. The existing highway on the other side of the road is unlikely to get significantly busier. So as it works now, is that existing road will work after the development.
The junction across will become the rat run to Meltham and over to the Home Valley. Well, straight through your Ward Council Alliance.
I mean, there are improvements being made to the Manchester Road itself as well. There is a right turn lane in, it's widening, there's going to be a footway. There are islands on either side of the road, so that it should remove any opportunity to overtake at that point. I don't know what we could improve, given that if we were to undertake a site visit before the next committee.
Councillor Firth.
By the looks of it, is a son of bend there. But I think the only without major construction work and getting a new road at the other side somewhere, You can do a little with it, except perhaps put some lining down to say that it is a dangerous corner. White lines make people slow down, and that's the only thing I can see. I don't know what the officers agree is with white lining. But apart from that, can I say I thought the scheme itself is a well thought out, well laid out scheme, really, and there's a hell of a lot of work gone into that. You can quite clearly see how we address your concern. That can be done. Thank you.
I think Madam is a bad councillor, and she knows better than us. I haven't been on the site, I think it might be a long time ago, yeah? I don't know the road situation. What's the councillor's mean is just she want to see the other members of the committee to see themselves on the spot, the situation. I think there is no harm to defer it, Chair, for another cycle. And she's not against the development, but only if we can improve the junction. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Homewood.
I'm not convinced that seeing the site is going to help us to determine it, because I think we can see from the picture, and I can see the concern that's being raised. But as has been said, I'm not sure that it's directly linked to the application. It seems like it's something that's a potential concern now. So based on what Councillor Firth has said, I think I would be happy to move the officer recommendation on the basis that we just look at any additions we can put onto that road in terms of making it safer, whether it's wardings, like you were saying. I'm sure that's something that's possible for us to do, so I would move that we...
Is that seconded? I haven't forgotten that there's a deferral you mentioned here.
I'll send you a recommendation, Chair.
Going to take the recommendation first, because that is how it normally works. And then if that falls, we'll go for the deferral. Right.
Can I ask a question to the highways? It is 40 mile per hour limit on there. Is there a possibility of possibly reducing it to 30 miles per hour on that particular corner?
Okay, through you, Chair. The honest answer is probably not. I don't know. I can only speak for my colleagues. We've had a similar situation at another location. Highway safety colleagues weren't keen to reduce the speed limit just for the sake of one new junction or one new housing development. People tend to drive on a road to the nature of that road. In this instance, it's relatively rural. It's not built up on either side. It feels more like a 40 mile an hour road. We have got measured speeds of around 40 miles an hour on that road, and it wouldn't be something we could just do for this one scheme.
Right, I'm going to take now the officer's recommendation. All those in favour, please show. All those against? That fallen. We now take deferral. All those in favour of deferral, please show.
Sorry. You're going to look at it again, so I guess.
Against? Well, I'm against it because we're not going to come out with anything.
Deferred for a site visit.
That's common sense. Right. Missed it then, right. So now we move on to page 89, which is Newhouse Farm, Newhouse Road, Sheepridge.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Neil Bearcroft and I'm presenting this application. The application seeks planning permission to change the use of the building outlined in red, which is the building which I'm indicating there, to a Class D1 non-residential institution, formation of parking and associated landscaping works. The application is brought to committee due to the significant number of representations which have been received, as detailed in the committee report and committee update. This site was seen by members earlier today and forms a two-storey stone building located off a part-adopted road and located to the north of a primary school. The primary school is there to the south. This is the access up here towards the site. Adjacent to the site is a Grade 2 star listed building. That's the building there on the one side of the site. And there are a group of protected trees adjacent to the site, which also forms a public footpath. The protected trees are in that location in the middle there. The following are a few photographs of the site. So that's an aerial which shows the school, the application site, the protected trees and the listed building. That's the road and then leading up onto the unadopted part. That's a picture of the access. The site is up towards the left. That's the entrance into the site. These are the protected trees. That's the building in question that's subject to the change of use. That's the listed building opposite, which has recently been damaged by fire and is undergoing renovation. And this area is where the parking will be, which we'll show you on a plan in a second. That's looking back down towards the access, and the boundary treatment, which you might be able to see there, is the boundary with the school. So the building would be used as a Gurdwara, which is a Sikh place of worship and community centre. Parking for 25 vehicles would be provided to the north of the site. They're indicated here on the plan. That is the building there to the south. The access would be here, as shown in the photographs, and a 2.4 metre high boundary fence would be located or installed where the green line is around the site. Some additional planting would also be included, and bin storage would be provided to the east of the building. Members have a full and detailed committee report in front of them, and I would also draw their attention to the committee update, which sets out a number of additional information. In terms of matters for consideration, the site is located on urban green space, which restricts certain types of new development, but does allow for changes of use of redundant buildings. In this case, the application building has been vacant since 2014, and the proposal would bring this building back into use. It would also provide a community use and is within 400 metres of the local centre of Sheepbridge. In light of these points, it is considered that the principle of development is acceptable for the site and would have an acceptable impact on the urban green space. With regards to the impact of the development on the setting of the Grade 2 star listed building, the main impact is considered to be from the 2.4 metre high boundary fence. In historic England, the Conservation Officer has assessed the proposal and raised no objection. The position of the fence is therefore considered to be acceptable, subject to a method statement detailing how it would be installed under the protected trees. I would now draw members' attention to the committee update, where matters in relation to residential amenity, highway safety have been raised, along with setting out some additional representations which have been received. In terms of highway safety, the development will provide 25 parking spaces, room for internal turning and bin storage, and these arrangements are considered to be acceptable from highway safety perspective. West Yorkshire Fire Service have now also commented on the application. They raised no objections to the proposal, provided the entrance to the site is widened to 3.1 metres. This can be conditioned as part of any application. In terms of residential amenity, the applicant has provided some further information in relation to the number of people who would use the development, which at times may exceed 25, which has previously been stated to be the number of people who would use the facility. They've also provided additional detail about the activities that would take place at the site, and also some further details in relation to the hours of operation, which have been proposed to be 7:30 to 8 p.m. and on Monday to Friday, and 8:30 to 6 p.m. On the weekend. In light of this additional information, which has only been received yesterday, planning officers are requesting that the application is deferred to the next committee cycle to allow sufficient time to consider these points and provide a response back to members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And in spite of, or not shall I say in spite, but because of the fact that the update has recommended deferral, I don't want to go into any further debate and carry this on and then we decide to defer. So I'd like to sort this out now. We've been and seen the site visit. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Councillor Sokol and then Councillor Holm.
I think we got all the information here which we wanted, yeah? We got the updated last night and by the agent as well. We got all the information. I don't know what we will achieve by deferring this application. I think we should go ahead to discuss this application now. Thank you.
Councillor Homewood.
So I understand what my colleague's saying. My concern is that the additional information that's been provided by the applicant around numbers of people using the facility and times, I think you've obviously been on the site visit this morning, one of the limitations of the site is the access to the site, where it's positioned, and there is clearly a limitation on the number of people that can use that site at any one time. And I'm not sure if we've got a kind of broad suggestion that there might be more people, there might not. I think we need to know what actually the expectation is. And I understand the comments from the applicant around it's difficult to when you've got a place of worship, what do you do once you get to 25? Do you put a sign outside the door saying no more can come in? It's a little difficult to deal with, but I think that's why it's quite important that we understand the numbers there, because you could have quite a problem if you're getting more vehicles coming down there. The building itself is only quite small, so it's limited presumably in how many people could actually safely be in the building. So whilst I accept that there's lots of people here to come to listen to the application and it's been going on for a while and people want to get to a resolution, I'm just concerned as to whether we can really come to a sensible decision without actually knowing that level of detail. And if the officers are saying to us that they need to go away and look at that, how can we make that decision? So on that basis, I would have thought we should follow the officers' guidance and defer it until they can do that additional assessment.
Councillor Sims.
I second Councillor Sokol that we should go ahead today. We got all the information. We talked about it on the bus, and we talked about the volume, etc., etc. We've been on site. You didn't go on site. We've physically walked up and down it and looked at it. So we know where we are, I think. So I second Councillor Sokol.
No further speakers?
I will second James's deferral motion.
It's a straight fight, isn't it? All those in favour of deferral, please show. All those against. So it's going to be dealt with now. We'll carry on.
Right, so we have Christoph von Which?
When I first learned that Niall's farm had been purchased by a group of Sikhs wanting to turn it into a temple and community centre, I was pleased. You will agree that most of us would rather have a stamp-collecting retired civil servant as next-door neighbour than a community centre but I thought it would be good use of the building, benefit the local community, and that would be a price worth paying for the increased inconvenience to us. I was even more pleased when, in conversation with the applicants, I learned that everybody would be welcome. They intended to create a little paradise for all. Then reality kicked in. An application for a 2.4-metre high metal mesh fence, enclosing as much of the area as possible and creating a closed compound. Logs piled onto the access road and the public footpath, a makeshift wooden fence at the entry to the wood, and big keep out private property signs. All necessary, I was told, to protect the women and children. All sending a very clear message to the local community and all the people who had previously enjoyed the amenity. We do not trust you, you need to be kept out, you're not welcome, this is not a paradise for all, this is for a very small sector of the community. Forgetting that for many this already had been a paradise, walking down the lane with the field on the right, conveying the feeling of a country lane and the freedom of the wood behind. Newell's Hall to the side, the haunted house of local law, the legends passed down through generations and enjoyed by hundreds of school children and adults in its time through visits, charity fundraiser, coffee mornings and living history days. Instead, the local community trying to enjoy the Greenbelt facilities will be faced with a compound with the visual appeal of a young offenders institution. No wonder well over 400 objections have been received, including one from the Huddersfield Civic Society. Not a petition, but individual objections collected by mums and dads at the school gate, by neighbours asking neighbour, from the local churches and hairdressers. I've taken the trouble to look at these objections, and two things struck me. Whilst objections came from far and wide, the vast majority of objections came from people very close to the site. And secondly, more importantly, I think, I could not find a single objection against the use of the building as a Gurdwara. What people did not like was the fence, the effect it would have on the setting of the Grade 2-star listed building, the keep out, we don't know, the
30 seconds.
message it gives to the community and how it would spoil the look of an area they love and use. By all means approve a fence, but this fence should keep the parking area unenclosed, should be much closer to the house and ideally be made of wood. This would also protect users of the temple so that they do not have to mingle with traffic. Can I ask the applicant to give the community a chance and see if you can trust us? You might not need as much protection from us as you think.
Thank you. Spot on.
Thank you, Chair and members. I'm talking on crime, vandalism and antisocial behaviour, since these constitute a large part of the reason that the applicants wish to build the fence. In the Planning Officer's report, it cites that crime report numbers have been submitted by the applicant to demonstrate problems associated with the vacant site. I was surprised, since the officer had previously acknowledged that crime wasn't an issue on the site or in the lane. She told me that the crime figures related to a single incident reported to the police on August 7th, involving the theft of a pallet wood bench, wooden pallets and copper from outside the building. I consider it disingenuous to suggest that one incident constitutes the submission of crime numbers and designates the area as high risk. We have not personally suffered any theft from our outbuildings for over 10 years or from our house in over 20. Neither are we aware of any theft from the site apart from this one incident. I acknowledge that there have been a limited number of acts of vandalism to our property in the 43 years we have lived here. These are historic, not in the recent past, discounting the small fire which occurred in our wood store, a semi-derelict building, following directly from our house fire when the site appeared to be abandoned. This structure previously had holes in the roof, no windows or doors. The asbestos roof which remains was removed by us following this fire damage, since it was considered to be unsafe and unstable. In contrast, I would point out that Newhouse Farm has been vacant for a number of years, and the crime report on the August 7th was the only record at Primer on site. I consider it to be remarkable that a vacant house where there's been a full skip of wood and other combustibles at the side of the house, a structure containing wood, pallets, garden furniture, all stored outside, has suffered no vandalism and only this one crime. Our assertion that the site and the lane are currently virtually crime-free comes from the figures on the West Yorkshire Police crime map, which shows
30 seconds.
Which shows that apart from the incident cited by the applicants, there has been no reported crime of any type going back as far as 2016. In addition, a conversation with our local police officer, when I asked him if the site and the lane was considered to be crime hotspots, he looked surprised and said no, it was very quiet on the lane and the site. A check of police computer records appears to confirm this to be the case. With regard to antisocial behaviour, police records...
Thank you. Your time's up. Thank you.
I'm Janine Riley, here to represent Heritage Interests, Conservation Architect. Wish to draw members' attention to two issues arising from the officer's report, the officer's spin or emphasis drawn out of the English Heritage letters, and the officer's assessment of harm versus public benefit, which doesn't put it in full context of the revised NPPF, National Planning Framework. Historic England don't welcome the proposals. They describe the mitigation and welcome these. Their actual recommendation is at 10.4. Historic England has concerns regarding the application on heritage grounds. They will support the proposals if the fence is necessary for security purposes. Necessary is the word, not desirable. The NPPF demands clear and convincing justification for any harm at 194. The crime, dog fouling and fly tipping is unsubstantiated, as the previous speaker said. The two neighbouring properties within the urban green space haven't relied on high security fencing to protect their families or property at all. They're more subtle and natural boundaries. Historic England's initial assessment said that the information was inadequate, and then they went on to say any fence should be moved as far away as possible. There's been no site visit. I've spoken to the inspector, and so she's reliant on the information provided. It's still at a very small scale of 1 to 500, and the reference points of the wall and the verge haven't been put on the drawing, so you can't exactly see where it would be, but it's certainly not as far as possible away. If the fence, they also assume, Historic England, that planting will mitigate the impact. They haven't been to the site, as I say. They weren't aware that it's been raised to the ground and the regeneration of the protected woodland will be raised. They also, close to Newhouse Hall, which is 1.4, it comes close to, it's impossible to get any planting in. The officer at 10.7 judges less than substantial harm versus public benefit. Public benefit can be secured with just the change of use, the access and the parking alone. It's not conditional on there needing to be a fence. The NPPF update gives great weight, irrespective of the level of harm. So small harm, big harm, you still have to give great weight to these heritage assets of the highest value. More important the asset, the greater weight should be. I respectfully request, as the case is weak and the proper tests haven't been applied properly, that if members are minded to approve, that they exclude the fence on the east side of the site from the proposals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My concern is the safety aspect.
not only will it have an effect on the landscape, but the road into the wood is very narrow, meaning that cars will not have room to turn round with the fence and have to back down the lane. And if you're going up, we have very little room. And at 80-year-old, I'm not as quick as I used to be. And I have a dog that thinks it can outrun a car. So you can imagine the safety. At the weekends, we have quite a number of people visit the wood. Woodscape brings groups of people to look at the owl. Milestone Society also advertise walks of historical interest, and New Outhall is on the list, and the ancient woodland. We have ramblers, bird watchers, groups of children with their parents. So at the weekend it becomes rather busy. So the narrow lane and cars having to back down will be a problem. We have no problem whatsoever with having the temple or the Sikhs. Our concern is simply the fence. I think that's it now, thank you.
Martha, please.
Hello, I'm here today to represent the Bracken Hall Community Trust, who own the Northfield Hall Community Centre, and also I'm here for the local residents. I've been on the estate of Bracken Hall and Sheepridge for 63 years, and we're a bit concerned about the amount of traffic that will take over on that road, that lane, simply because we know as a community centre that when there is an event, that there are far more cars and people turn up than is being expected, and we have far more parking spaces than what is for them, and the rest of them park on the main road, which means that fair enough, it's a lot easier. But on that lane, if there are cars parked down that lane, then emergency vehicles couldn't get down. That there would be problems with people going down, children go down with animals. I personally take my dog down there, not every day, but I do take him down there. And it's a very peaceful area, ideal for a church. I don't have a problem with that. It's an ideal setting for a church. But I worry of the fence that is proposed to be put up. To walk past it, the way I see it, and look like walking past a prison. The height of it, and it feels that it's an exclusive for people. It's not open to everybody. It's an enclosed space just for certain people. So I get concerned that, as well, that if they're wanting a community to do community things, then why have they not contacted the community buildings within the area, i.e. the community centre, which is just up the road from them, and also the Chestnut Centre, which is a community building, which is, again, not far from them, sorry. And also the Top Club, who do a lot of community activities.
30 seconds.
So we're a little bit concerned about the usage as a community building, as to how the whole of the community is going to get involved, as they haven't yet agreed, have contacted anyone about it. But more or less concerned about what the road is going to look like. So basically, that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
My name is Penny Wainberg, and I mainly wish to speak with regard to the impact on the ancient woodland. When the officer described the restrictions around the site, he mentioned the protected trees and the listed buildings, but he omitted to note that the area of woodland that boundaries the site is in fact ancient woodland, which is woodland that has been the same since at least the 1600s, and is woodland which should be protected in all planning constraints. The government says that damage should be avoided not just to the trees, but should include any damage to the soil, the ground flora or the fungi. That the water table changes should be avoided in order to protect this ancient asset. The asset is regarded to be one that is a natural asset, a cultural asset and a recreational asset, and that all of those values should be protected in planning and the way that any development which could have an impact on an ancient woodland. The application says it is for associated landscaping, and yet no specification has been submitted for the finishes for the car parking area or for the lighting. Both of those things can have significant impact on both those protected trees and the ancient woodland with regard to the drainage, and also lighting can impact on the nocturnal fauna which is active in the area. There are bats that use that woodland edge to navigate, and there is much fauna which needs to be protected. The site goes right up to the edge of the ancient woodland, and but the applicant has in fact cleared beyond the site that they've bought and damaged the ancient woodland already. Planning guidelines state that a buffer should be included. There was a natural semi-rural buffer within the site, but that has also been cleared. So the most biodiverse, important part of the ancient woodland has been already destroyed by the applicant, and the natural buffer that was there within the site has been removed. The ancient woodland needs to be protected and remembered in the way in which this application is dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Sukhvinder Singh, who's speaking in support of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we bought this building, we had a brief consultation with immediate neighbours, and we clearly pointed out what we're going to use the building as, what we're purchasing for the local, making into local worship place, and they were very happy with that. And then we had a objection from Historic England, and they asked us to change the fence into the wire mesh, and we happily changed that and removed the fence slightly away from the wall, and we did that as well. Then about the TPO, I checked with the TPO, tree prevention orders, and clearly I start planting already some trees there. There's clearly new tree has been planted there, and we are very passionate about the wildlife trees, and we are going to plant a lot more trees there. And about the fire brigade, we personally called the fire brigade on Friday to make sure it's absolutely covering everything. They came out, checked the fire hydrant. We left that out to the fence, and they were very happy. They told us they can deal with any kind of fire here around the woodland or into the neighborhood, and the fire hydrant is still in a working good condition, and they can also turn their vehicle other side of the road and into our place, and they were quite happy on that. And about the fence. If it's causing, we're not here to upset any neighbours. We want to make a friend. We want to serve that to community. If that's causing fence is too high, we can lower that down to 5.5 foot, which is normally man is about over 5 foot tall. They can oversee it. We are here to serve the community, not to push the community away. And once a week, we will be creating for the children to navigate them to go through that today's difficult
30 seconds.
Going through the society. And other thing is, the place will be common ground for people all walk of life to sharing their stories, not just feeling lonely, sitting in their home. They can come out, and we were going to provide benches for the people just out sitting.
Thank you.
On the,
Ronnie Atwell, who's also speaking in support.
Sorry. My name is Ronnie Atwell. I'm a member of the local Sikh community. I'm also a trustee with a local grassroots charity and a working mum with young children. I'm here as a representative of the Sikh congregation. The Sikh community have listened to the objections in relation to the concerns raised by local residents regarding the woodland, the surrounding heritage and the wildlife on this application. We understand and support the protection of all of this, and we are aware of the beauty that surrounds us. Due to this awareness, we have taken into consideration all the concerns by way of the age of the woodland, the English heritage and the protected trees and wildlife, and have found a suitable solution by way of fencing that is more in keeping with the natural surroundings. This does not pose any threat to the environment around us. In taking the objections on board, we, the Sikh community, have also worked with the emergency services to ensure that at no time would any of the enhancements to the plot of land be of any health and safety risk. We have taken advice and will continue to work alongside to meet any regulatory requirements on a regular basis as needed to ensure that there is no risk, as this is also of paramount importance to the Sikh community. As active members of the Sikh congregation, we come with experience in running community projects that promote equality, fairness and diversity. There is lots of this experience within the different generations amid the congregation of our community in Huddersfield. We would install a positive impact and add value to the local area, as our community would actively encourage community cohesion, education and support across all areas of crime prevention, safeguarding, working with local agencies and social interaction as we enter the digital era across all communities. From the Sikh faith perspective, I would like to highlight that we are a humanitarian community that promotes engagement. Our ethos is very much focused on the well-being and protection of all life, including animals and plant life, and we would be open and happy to work with environmental agencies and charities to ensure that everyone respects and enjoys this space. We are a hard-working community with a focus on creating a positive family-orientated lifestyle, which includes sharing with all that surrounds us, and we are sympathetic to your needs.
30 seconds.
I hope that this gives you a small insight into our warm intentions to not only protect your space, but also at the same time to protect the little human beings that may use our space. Thank you for your time.
Hi, okay, good afternoon. Shall I just kick off? My name is Jane Simpson and I live at Newhouse Bungalow on Newhouse Road, near to the rear school entrance. I am here today to express with myself and my husband's support for the application. We've lived in Newhouse Bungalow for over 15 years, and as outlined in our previous letters of support, we have encountered antisocial behaviour over a number of years. For example, we found in the lane a machete, knives, bolt cutters, syringes that were thrown into the school grounds as well. Incidents included one night 2 men decided to fire a gun against our garden wall, prostitution, drug taking, dealing, burglaries and break-ins, stone throwing both at Newhouse Hall and our home, in fact one at our house last week, arson and numerous stolen cars set alight, vehicle speed down including off-road motorbikes and quad bikes. On one occasion we took in a man who came to our house at midnight. He had been kidnapped, transported in the boot of a car, beaten up, dumped at the end of the lane and threatened with a gun. Police and ambulances were called to attend to him. Littering and fly tipping are persistent. Recently there have been 3 incidents of fly tipping which we have tried to prevent. All resulted in threats to ourselves. 2 of these were registered with the police. This was about sort of May, June, July time this year. We have CCTV and photograph evidence of that as well. With regard to Newhouse Farm, during the time when it was half used as a residence, there was an increase in drug dealing, prostitution and general antisocial behaviour, with cars and people coming and going till the early hours. There have been police raids on the premises, once following a gun being discharged in Sheepbridge. When the Sikh community bought Newhouse Farm, the grounds and lane were in a terrible state. There was brambles and rubbish dumped between the actual building and the woods. They were a really a mess. As the residents who would be most impacted on by any increase in vehicular traffic, because it passes directly past our house, we feel that the added benefits far outweigh any negativity. In fact, we are more affected by heavy-duty delivery vehicles Monday to Friday that come to the school, right past our house. It is no happy accident that it looks like a country lane. My husband, alone, for the 15 years or so, has picked up litter every week, which is why it is nice and clean. Along with the Sikh community, we also take the view that if the lane looks clean and tidy, we are less likely to encounter antisocial behaviour and incidents of fly tipping. I am confident that the benefits of additional security will reduce all incidents of antisocial behaviour, particularly at night. I have to say we do have CCTV, and it is not effective at preventing this kind of thing because the CCTV is never adequate to be able to record it.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I've got one last sentence. I talk quite fast when I'm told off about that. I would like to stress that the Sikh community have always consulted with ourselves from day one to ensure that we as neighbours are happy with their intentions, and we fully support their application.
Thank you.
Malcolm Sizer.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here speaking on behalf of the application, on behalf of the applicants. The application dates back to April this year, since when lots of discussions have taken place on various issues with officers, resulting in officers being happy to bring the application to this meeting as set out in their original report. They recommended in that report that the decision be delegated to officers to approve the application subject to conditions. The only outstanding issue identified in that report was hours of use. The only new issue raised in the officer's update is the widening of the entrance gates for fire appliances. This is not a problem to my clients and can be governed by an additional condition. A lot of the representations made by earlier speakers have been in regard to the fence. My client have considered this, and in the interest of reducing the impact, are happy to agree to a 1.5 feet reduction in the height of the fence down to 5 feet, as opposed to 6 feet 6. Having now supplied the details of the proposed hours of use and numbers visiting, I suggest that it should be possible for my clients and council officers to reach agreement. As noted, the application is 6 months old, and my clients are very keen for a decision as soon as possible. On that basis, I would ask that you don't accept the officer recommendation to defer the application, but you delegate the decision to officers to grant, subject to planning permission, including conditions regarding the widening of the entrance gate and reduction in the height of the fence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, members, but before we start, can I just say that I've listened to everything here, and I've been there myself this morning, and the bugbear seemed to be the fence. Now, they say they come down to 5 foot. That, for me, puts the lid on it. But that's my opening gambit, and therefore, from the chair, I will recommend officer's recommendation here as well. So I'm moving that. Is that seconded? Yes.
Sorry, second on the height. On the height, was that? Yeah. Yeah.
Councillor Homewood.
Thought I'd better say something. Firstly, can I just check, because in terms of the recommendation to defer, so I presume this means now that in terms of the numbers, the opening times and the numbers of people who can use the facility, that will be as is in the report, and if there's any changes to that, there'll have to be variation to the application, to the planning conditions in the future. Is that right?
Sorry, through you, Chair. The recommendation in the main report, which I think Chair was talking about from officers at that stage, was conditional full permission, subject to conditions and subject to clarification about the hours of opening and the patrons that would be attending at that time. So the information in the update provides further information on that point. So the main report that was then substituted by the request for deferral, which is lost. So the main report was subject to more information on the opening hours, which is set out in italics in the update. So that is the basis of it, which, I mean, it's set out in full there. The hours that were set out in the report and have been assessed are the hours of use, but there appears in this to be at least a couple of times a year when more than 25 people would attend, and there may be times on a Sunday, which is the principal day of worship, when more than 25 may attend. That's the information that we've got from the applicants. Thanks, Chair.
So, sorry, just maybe I'm missing. So, if they, in the discussions that you have in terms of conditions, if they come back and say, well, on a Sunday we'd need provision for 50 people or 60 people, is that something you still have to, you would have to come to a conclusion about the number of people that could be to use the building at any one time?
Sorry, through you, Chair. As far as we're concerned at the moment, we've assessed it on 25 people. So I think if there was a resolution that it be granted subject to conditions, we would have to liaise with the agent to get the exact wording of that condition so that it was 25 people, and what may happen if there is on occasion more than 25 people, or the other festivals when it's mentioned that there might, or either extraordinary numbers or times might not be in strict accordance with those set out in the application form. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can I just final on different points, just to say that I agree with you, Chair. I haven't heard anything in objection to the change of use, and I'm in full support of the uses of Gurdwara. Just on the fence, I've agreed with you about it being reduced in size is helpful, and I think we should also note that there has been modifications through the process, and I think the fact it goes through the trees is all about trying to mitigate the visual amenity impact. And I think we should also remember that you guys have been on the visit, that there is, where the actual hall is, there is a stone wall on the other side of the hall. So in terms of amenity from the actual new house hall itself, I think from the listed building perspective, especially if it's reduced, that the size is reduced, that's reduced too. I do also think, just wanted to pick up on a few points people have made, I don't see that this is somehow in, and perhaps not a planning consideration anyway, but I don't see this is in any sort of competition with other community buildings, which I think are much bigger, have different usages. This is actually a relatively small building that's principally going to be used as a place of worship. So I think, in my view, I think it can complement what's there already, and I don't think that should be a problem. Just on the points that I think the lady made about protection of the environment and things, I don't know, I'm not an expert in ancient woodland, so I don't know all the details, but I do think that there have been some fair points raised about whether there's been things that have happened that shouldn't have happened in that area. And from my experience, I think it is just to do with enthusiasm of volunteers within the community turning up and wanting to help, and perhaps not considering what the impacts might be. So I think if we can give the applicants any guidance on how to protect the woodland, and as they've said they're happy to do that, I think that would be a positive thing. And I think just generally, I mean, I do understand all the concerns raised, but I think what we need to do is, this is again not a planning point, but if we can actually all work together in the area to make sure all everybody in the communities feels engaged and feels happy about this, because I do have concerns, for example, if a sign goes up saying private property don't enter and things like that. I'm not sure that's necessarily particularly helpful, and I think there are better ways around doing that, because, and just on the last point, I understood the points that were made about whether the fence is necessary and things, but I think what's necessary to one person isn't what's necessary to another. And if you're managing a community building or a temple and you need to have insurance provision and you need to make sure things like cars or your sacred materials that are in the Gurdwara are protected, then to you that is important that there's a protection there. So I can understand why they want some protection. And I think, you know, I'm not saying there's a crime hotspot there, but any place that you get that's at the end of a lane that backs onto woodland, there is always the likelihood that people will go there to do things they shouldn't do or to dump things. So I think I can understand the reason for wanting some additional protection. So yeah, that's all I want to say, and just make sure people understood my perspective.
Well, Councillor McGuinn.
Yeah, I want to support the application, but I'm a bit wary of the Sunday, the numbers on Sunday. So I would like to put, can we make it a temporary application, you know, just a temporary 6 months to a year?
6 or 12 months.
Yeah, and review it. You can't.
Well, it's not possible.
Through you, Chair, with a test for condition, one of them is if it's reasonable. Now, in this case, sometimes we do a temporary permission, and that might just be to use a building as it is. You go in for a short time, or it might be somebody running a business from home, or sometimes it's a taxi office. With this, there needs to be significant works to the grounds. The car park needs to be put in. A fence would need to be put up. Internal works, they don't require planning permission, but there would be works required to the building to bring it into use. So in those circumstances, it would not be reasonable to suggest that a permission is temporary. So you would have to think about whether it was acceptable or not acceptable, rather than have a trial period like we do on some other applications. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Firth.
I won't prolong this, Chair. I've listened quite carefully. All the neighbours are quite supportive of the change of use, which I'm delighted to hear. The way forward, I think, is all the neighbours and the applicants. You've mentioned woodland, but that was going to be addressed. Yes. Nearly all the neighbours welcome the change of use to this.
There's 3 sets of neighbours and 1 set of neighbours.
And well, I'm not having a conversation with you, I'm talking to the Chair. Nearly all the neighbours. Do you want me to go into... Shall I go into fractions, Chair? Most of the neighbours, bar some.
One neighbour. One, not most. How can one be most of 3?
I'm not talking.
Please, we don't...
I'm listening to the only way forward, I will support this, Chair, but the way forward is the neighbours and the applicants to talk to one another, and that will address just about all the situations that face us today. I think it's been moved, Chair, as you know.
Moved and seconded. Can I say, the fence, I'll just emphasise it because I thought that was important.
Yes.
It's gone down from 7'10" to 5 foot. So I think in that respect, it's at least gone a long way to go. So just finally then, Councillor Sims.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I support this application, but also I understand the sensitivities of the site, and I think it's important that the right-of-way and the public footpath is kept status quo. I think it's important, and I find that the Sikh temple is being responsible, I think, on so far what they've come back with to lower the fence. That also before that the design of the fence had been altered to make it less of an impact. But when you draw into this site, and I'm surprised neighbours haven't said anything, is that if you look at that school fence, it's like Armley Jail, you know, and like nobody, it's gone, and you know, people's let it happen. This fence and the way they're going to do it is going to be less harmful than that ever is. And I think, and I know that the Sikh community, within their religion, support wildlife, support nature, etc. It's part of their religion. So they are going to really look after, I think, and I'm putting onus on them now, that woodland is protected, and that the landscaping and the way they treat the periphery is done correctly. I'm sure it will do. But with the conditions that we've got on, this will be made enforceable. But I think they will. So from that point of view, Chair, I support it. And with those conditions, hopefully the community can get together and work together. Thank you.
Now, all those in favour? That's with the 5-foot fence. Against? Oh. We'll move on then to the next application, page 107. This is Lassells Hall Road, Lassells Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I've acted as case officer in this application. The application seeks to change the use of a former care home to printing business and dwelling with associated works. It is brought to committee at the request of Councillor Munro, as detailed in the committee report. The building is a Grade 2 listed property constructed from stone and is located on the edge of Huddersfield and was seen by members earlier today. The site has substantial grounds which a number of TPOs are located within, and this site is approached from a driveway which leads off Lassells Hall Road and leads to a large parking area to the front of the house. This plan isn't the greatest, but the site is there. These are the grounds in front with the parking area and the protected trees. This is an aerial photograph that shows the parking area a little bit clearer. That's the building there, and then here are some other photographs. That's the front of the listed building. It's been empty, or it closed from its last use in 2013. So it's boarded up in sections. That's the parking area that was previously used. That's looking with the drive. The vehicles would come towards where the photograph's been taken. That's up towards the drive, the existing one-way system, which would be retained. And that's the road down out of the one-way system. And that's the site entrance into the property. It's worth noting that the site entrance also serves a number of properties further to the east. So they go along the drive, they carry on to the properties there, but the proposed site is accessed before you get to those properties. So in terms of the proposal itself, the ground floor would form the printing business, which would be accessed by the main front door of the building. A first floor single apartment would be formed for the business owners. Internally, walls would be removed to facilitate the change of use, and a double-storey extension on the side, which is used for a lift, would also be reduced in height, and a lean-to roof installed. The existing access and parking arrangements would be utilised, with 17 parking spaces provided, utilising the one-way system, with bin storage also located to the one side of the building, as indicated on the plan. In terms of the key matters of consideration, the host building is Grade 2 listed, has been empty since 2013, and the reuse of the building would have a positive impact on the listed property and provide a long-term viable use, which is supported by the Conservation Officer. The proposed printing business with apartment above are considered to represent an acceptable use for the building and would retain 13 jobs. A condition tying the apartment to the printing business is considered to be necessary to protect the amenity of the occupiers of the apartment. With regards to highway arrangements, as I've discussed, 17 spaces would be provided and they would utilise the existing access which is considered to be acceptable. In terms of deliveries and collections, there'd be one delivery per day and between 4 to 5 collections per day. And these arrangements are considered to be acceptable in principle and will be controlled through a traffic management plan, which is to be conditioned. Turning to residential amenity, it is not considered that the proposed development would generate high levels of noise, and the hours of use will be conditioned to operate between 8 AM and 6 PM, Monday to Friday, with no activity at weekends. These hours of use are considered to be acceptable. There are 2 extraction fans that would be installed at the rear of the building, and to ensure that the amenity of the surrounding properties is protected, a noise report is conditioned as part of the recommendation. Subject to the conditions set out in the committee report, the application is considered to be acceptable and is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
We have Susan Miller, who objects to the plan.
Mr Chairman, councillors, I represent the objectors to this application, some of whom are here this afternoon. Why is it even considered appropriate to permit development of an industrial business in a Grade 2 listed building situated in a quiet, wholly residential and agricultural area which doesn't even have a shop? There are many available purpose-built units within a reasonable distance of the applicant's existing business site. These units are properly equipped with easy visible access, appropriate infrastructures and all necessary compliances in place, and are therefore more appropriate. For the hall to accommodate this business, there are many alterations to be made, particularly to the upper floor. These alterations are considered by those that know to be detrimental to the building, so much so that the Ancient Monument Society have objected on these grounds, and so far I cannot see that their objections have been withdrawn. Your own environmental health officers acknowledge concern, particularly regarding the building's future usage, something that local residents are worried about. Once the committee approved the industrial use, there is no going back. Lascelles Hall is not suitable location for a busy and thriving industrial business. The entry and exit to the property is very dangerous because of the bends in the road. You have been today and seen for yourselves just how poor the visibility is. And in the intervening 5 to 6 years when the nursing home has been closed, the traffic volume has increased dramatically. Under the UDP of this council, proper protections and precautions for the safety of the existing residents must be paramount. The proposer has an established business with 13 employees, so there's little chance of employment. We are led to believe that there's been very little interest in this house for residential usage, but this is simply not true. Agents confirm there have been potential purchases for residential usage, some developers, some private individuals, but when the purchasers meeting the conservation and planning officers refer their plans, they are rebuffed. In conclusion, the planners must accept responsibility for the hall's current condition. In fact, there's an underbidder to today's proposer who wants to turn the house into a residence for himself and 3 small girls, and I'm sure your planners and conservation officers could confirm this. I repeat, there is interest in this for residential use, and the intended industrial usage will not serve the local residents well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Munro.
Hello, Mr Chairman, councillors. I'm Alistair Munro, represent the Almonbury ward. I'd just like to make the following comments. One of my main concerns is that once change of use has been established, any future proposal with a B1 rating or other would be accepted. And I think it's important to bear in mind that the area in the immediate vicinity of the site is rural with farm animals, and I therefore believe that a change of use, once established, could have a detrimental impact on the locality in the future. I note the report at 10.12, in any event, notes that the location is possibly not ideal. And 10.11, while I note that the use of the printing business would protect jobs, the printing business would protect jobs wherever it was located, be it in the town centre or an industrial estate or a local high street, which would be more appropriate. I note that when the building was previously a care home, traffic would have been generated, including deliveries. However, the house has not been used now for 5 years, and in that time there has been a distinct increase in traffic use in Lassells Hall Road, and as stated in the report, is heavy. And over the years, I have received lots of complaints about the traffic through the village. It's a huge bugbear for people who live there, as Lassells Hall Road was not designed for heavy traffic, but just to serve the village of Lassells Hall. Planning, my next point is planning do not consider vehicular movement to be materially greater to and from the house. But they don't seem to have factored into this the increase in traffic on Lassells Hall Road. And I think it's really important to bear in mind that access is via the shared drive and entrance, so that in addition to the proposed 17 vehicles for staff and customers, delivery vehicles and waste collection services, there are also existing residents using the same access, and that should be respected. I think it would also be a good idea to see a traffic management plan before any decision is made. Finally, there are an unusual amount of conditions proposed which indicate just how difficult this site would be to work in practice, and I therefore do not feel that it should be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. Members. Councillor McGuinn.
Thank you. I'm a councillor for Almonbury, which is Lassells Hall is part of the Almonbury Warders, and I share the constituency work with Alison, and I can confirm, Councillor Munro, sorry, I can confirm that we do have a lot of complaints about at the moment, about the parking in the village. It's very, very difficult to get through because there is no pavement on one side of the road of Lassells Hall. So access is going to be very, very difficult from the Wakefield Road, and I should imagine that's where the transport would come from. Okay, I'd just like to make a few points about the application. It does not create work, because the work is already there. It's Aurora Prints, and I should have declared an interest at the beginning. I have commissioned work with Aurora Prints when I was chairman of the Conservative Party in Huddersfield. So we have used them. I have no objections to the firm at all. They are very good quality. I can compliment them on the work, but they're not actually going to create any work by any more workers, any employment by this. They're just moving from one site to another. Let's talk about the character of the area. Lassells Hall, most of the areas in the green belt. Now, it's a very rural setting. What you're doing is moving industrial business into a rural area. As Councillor Munro says, it doesn't make any sense at all. I can't see why it's being done. There are other premises available. Okay, it's already the road is already a dangerous cut through, and I can see significant access problems from Lassells Hall Road if this is approved. Not enough seems to be done to return the Lassells Hall to a residential purposes. We have got evidence that the people have wanted to turn Lassells Hall into a residence, and maybe if it wasn't just for one, because it's quite large for one family, you could see it being turned into 2 or 3 flats maybe, but hey. I think the residents want to talk to me about the access to the building as well. If you were there, you would see that there's actually there's one road that leads up to the hall, and one road that runs round the row of cottages or terraced houses. And it's not actually part of it's not actually part of the application, I've noted, but it is noted in the report that there is a flat round the back, and they're worried that if this is taken over by a business, that it could in the future be used by the business. Now, we must make it a condition that access road must not be used by a business if you are minded to approve it, because they have had problems with that road, and I'm sure the First Lady who spoke, she didn't mention that the road had a collapse at one time due to weight of traffic. So if any large trucks go on the access road round the back, it could cause problems for the road. So I must make it a condition that that road must not be used by the business. So if you're minded to pass it, and I can see there might be a feeling that it should be passed, I think that we should look at the impact of the fans, make sure they mitigate against the noise of the fans and any excess smells and sounds coming from the place. If you are minded to pass it, we should have a proper traffic flag before it's even allowed to open, as Councillor Munro pointed out. We've got to limit the size of the vehicle, although there is something in the report about that. It's naturally going to be very hard anyway for a large truck to get up that path, because it's steep in places. Definitely we should limit the hours of working at the weekend. As I say, it's a rural area, very quiet, and we don't want any noise at the weekend to upset people around there, because it is a rural area, quiet village, and if you're going to ruin it by putting an industrial process into the village, then make sure you don't ruin the weekends as well. I'd like to finish by saying I think this application does significant harm to the area and to the people of Lazarzal, and I move to refuse the application, but mindful of the conditions if you're minded to pass it. But I reiterate, I move to refuse this application.
Councillor Sir.
Yeah, Chair, I've been on the site visit this morning. I don't know, because Councillor McGowan wasn't on the coach, I don't know he have seen this building before or no. No, I'm not sure. Yeah. I've been on the site visit. This is a listed, grade second listed building. It's a beautiful building with the natural stone and whatever, you know. I mean, this building been empty for 6 years. Nobody tried to take over this building, yeah? And it's a shame to leave this grade second building like that. Nobody maintained this building, yeah? It's a shame. Shame in the area, you know, the area they want to see this building left in a derelict condition. The proposed business is not a big industrial business. It's only a small printing company who are creating 13 jobs. No, they move. Yeah. So they're creating 13 jobs there, and they will maintain this building as well with regard to the access, yeah? I've been told by the highway on the side, it's look like a one-way system. The road go up there, when they come out, they come down the other access of the road. What's the problem on the access? You know, it will improve the area. I think I should move the officer recommendation to approve the application. Thank you.
Is that Councillor Firth and then Councillor Ola?
I think one point that's been overlooked, Chair, is that the printing company is still on the first floor, and the ground floor will be turned into a residence. Or is it the other way around? I've got it the wrong way around, but there's going to be a residence there. as well as a business. So that covers it for me, especially when it's been empty for so many years.
Councillor.
Yeah, if it hasn't been seconded, I'll second it. And I understand what Bernard's saying, but this building is a super building. We've had to, in Home Valley South, mix business with domestic housing, and it's worked very successful. It's worked successful in America. If this business saves this building, then you know, it's a good thing, because as councillors we have to try and save these buildings. We have to try and save this heritage. It's not industrial as such. There's no big printing presses involved in this. It's more electronic copy machines and that sort of thing, rather than big stamping presses that old printing places used to have. In fact, I don't think there'll be as much machinery in this as what there would be in a farm milking parlour. You know, I mean, it's probably been taken out of context a bit. So I support it, and if it brings this building back to its glory, then good. And if it homes somebody upstairs, then good. And if it sorts out the landscaping and the drive and that, it's good. It can only be a benefit. If they maintain the gardens, it can only be a benefit. So therefore, I think it should go ahead, Chair. Thank you.
Could I just point out two factual errors from Councillor Sockham? Two errors that he's made in his statement. I'd like to point it out. Is that okay? Right, it's not creating extra employment, it's just moving employment from one place to another. And secondly, and I think Councillor King's made the same point, other people have tried to buy this building, and some of the objectors have pointed out people have tried to buy the building, and there's been things put in the way to stop them doing it. And I don't like the idea that we turn it into an industry and a combat. It might be okay for the Colne Valley, but I don't think it's right for that as well.
Well, can I just say as well that there's been so many businesses now that are going into houses. This is the reverse, and this is an exception. It really is. But seeing that building there deteriorating, and it was going to rack and ruin, and even the area around it, it was going. So if they're going to revitalise it, it's got to be good. Anyway, that's now it's been moved and it's been seconded to accept officer's recommendation. All those in favour, please show. Against? Page 123, and it's Stanford Road, Dalton.
Thank you, Chair. Just before we start this item, can I draw your attention to the update, just in terms of councillor comments. Councillor Musrat Khan was the member that requested this application be brought to committee, and she's requested it be deferred as she is unable to attend today's meeting due to other commitments. She states that if the application is deferred, it would allow her to represent Mr Ali at a future meeting of the subcommittee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My name is William Simcock and I am the case officer for this application. 20 Stanleyforth Road, Dalton is a semi-detached dwelling. The left-hand half of the pair is viewed from the highway, and it's located on the south side of the road. It's been substantially extended by the addition of dormers to the front, as can be seen here, ground floor conservatory and kitchen extension to the rear, and also a large box dormer, can just about be seen here. The box dormer also extends out over the earlier ground floor extension beyond the eaves of the original roof. And this has also been extended here as well, this kitchen. It is in a row of small, closely spaced, semi-detached properties with long, narrow rear gardens. And the proposal is for a single-storey extension with a flat roof. It is going to be formed here. It is going to be built out beyond the old conservatory extension and joining up with the kitchen extension here. This part of the kitchen approximately is original. It's already been extended out to here. It would have a solid west side wall in rendered blockwork, and the main elevation would be mainly glazed with some coursed stone walling. To put the extension in context, it may be helpful to look at this 3D aerial view. And this is the property in question. You can see it's already been extended at the rear at ground floor and has this large dormer or roof extension as well, which comes out beyond the original eaves. And these are some alternate views looking from one side and then the other. Officer's view is that the proposed extension, taking into account the extensions already built and the narrow width of the plot, would amount to overdevelopment and would fail to comply with policy PLP 24 in the emerging publication draft local plan, which states that extensions should be subservient to the original building. It is noted that there are no other dwellings in the street that have been enlarged to the same extent. The applicant was asked during the application process to consider a compromise by which the extension would be modified so as to consist only in the widening of the existing kitchen by 1.3 metres to incorporate this part here, but rejected this option, and so it is being determined on the basis of the originally submitted plans. It should be noted that there is no fallback position under development rights, as explained at length in paragraphs 10.6 to 10.7 of the report. It is considered the extension is disproportionate and would amount to overdevelopment in terms of its visual impact, and it is also considered that it would have a significant impact on number 18, which is the adjoining property to the west. The proposed extension would leave no space before the common boundary and would project 6.5 metres beyond the original rear elevation of both properties, or 3.5 metres more than that recommended under policy BE14 for semi-detached dwellings. It would result in greater restriction of light, including direct sunlight, to rear-facing windows in number 18, and in addition would likely to lead to a greater sense of enclosure and loss of open aspect for this property. It is considered that this would be harmful to the residential amenity of this property, contrary to the aims of policy B14 and D2 of the UDP and PLP 24 of the local plan. It is therefore recommended that permission is refused for the reasons set out in the officer's report. Thank you, Chair.
One speaker, Samaray Shoutat, who will speak on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Smar Shock and I'll be making representations in favour of the applicant, Mr. Ali. I'll begin by addressing the planning officer's concerns regarding the overdevelopment of the property. I hope the site visit has allowed you to truly appreciate the size of the garden in proportion to the property itself. The proposal only involves the rear of the property, which borders an 11-foot closed paling with Tesco's, and considering the exceptionally long garden, this small extension is not to a substantial degree. The construction of the dormers has not increased the original footprint, and all of the previous and proposed extensions are prevailing in the area. The applicant has tried to ensure the development is keeping in character with the surroundings. However, the properties in the vicinity are of individual style, and they have varying styles and individual design. I therefore request the Chair to allow a special exemption on this occasion to recognise the joint family arrangement and cultural norms, to accommodate an extended family and elderly relatives, and ensuring the future care of my parents is provided. There are no alternative suitable 5-bedroom houses available to whom are parents, 3 adult children and their future families within the vicinity. Therefore, relocating is not a feasible option. The planning officer agrees that the design detail materials are not harmful and they could prove acceptable. Therefore, I suggest that the issues raised relate to the scale and of the property and they exist irrespective of the proposal. In response to the issues relating to the residential amenity of number 18, firstly, the common boundary is currently separated by bushes, shrubbery and a 5-foot fence. However, the applicant is also prepared to plant trees and erect a higher fence to minimise any dominance. There is no right to a particular view and any overshadowing part of the garden is not a sufficient ground to justify refusal. But the neighbours have confirmed before planning was submitted that there's no, they're not obstructed, their recreational and domestic activities are not obstructed. There's no interference to privacy and overlooking as the elevation is only an angle of 3 metres. Their habitable rooms face the front of the property and the applicant is using obscure glass fixed shut to above eye level. There's no direct uninterrupted view of their main seating area. The purpose of the extension is to create a suitable space to accommodate a joint extended family, especially during social and religious activities. The recommendation would have fundamentally reduced the size of the conservatory and not house a 14-seater dining table. There's no highway and safety or accessibility issues, and therefore I request the committee to consider the exceptional circumstances favourably and grant the applicant's proposal for planning permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Members. Councillor Sokol.
Oh, yeah, it's open now. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we all been on site visit this morning. We gone on the back. Before I went to the side bit, I thought it might be overdevelopment. Yeah. When we went on the back side, we saw the location of this extension. It didn't look like overdevelopment, and it doesn't make impact on the neighbors or on the back. I think it's still plenty of room left there. But only thing, when I would like to put a condition if we approve this application, I wouldn't like the flat roof on there. I think it would be better if we ask the applicant to put a pitch roof, you know, like there was a little before there, just like that. So if we put a condition on a pitch roof, I think we should support this application. We heard about this young lady. They have an extended family. They need some more extra accommodation. So I would like to move the application to approve it.
Councillor McGuinn.
Hello, Councillor Lyons. I think it wants to take you back to it. I can't remember. We had an application for a snooker room somewhere at Outlane, and the officer came with, we recommend. You remember, with the officer came with, we should refuse it because the effect of on the neighbours and yeah. And I think we did pass it against officer recommendation that time. Now, I'm loath to go against officer recommendation, as you can tell. But if we've passed it on that occasion for a snooker room, it's hard to go against someone who's applying for it for who needs it for the genuinely needs it for a family. And I find myself really conflicted after hearing their story and after what we've done on the application for the snooker room. So I'm minded to second Councillor Sokol's. I will do. I'll second him to show I'm not all bad against him.
Right. Can I just say, as far as I see it, the flat roof, no, it's out of the question. But a pitch roof to fill the void, and because that's all it will be doing, filling the void that is there now. A pitch roof, and it would look neat and tidy.
Thank you, Chair. So that's it. And with that bit there, so we can see that bit and that bit. Thank you, Chair. It's just regarding if it does go through for approval, pitched roof v flat roof, and why it might have been designed with a flat roof, or the benefits of a flat roof in this situation, which is rather odd, and I agree that normally a flat roof isn't something that we thought appropriate. So when we were out on site and when we look at the plans, there's two extensions already on the property. There's the rear extension. I'm pretending I can point and I can't point at the plan. There's the rear extension, and then there's the kitchen extension coming out. They haven't got a uniform height. The kitchen extension is slightly higher than the rear extension, as you can see. So they've got different eaves levels there. So you've got the gutter line is higher there where William's pointing for the roof extension, and then if you can see the gutter line for the rear extension is lower. It would be nigh on impossible to design a pitched roof that is going to marry in with those two different roof forms without taking the roof of everything off and thinking how you were going to do it again. So I would imagine that this particular roof has been designed so that it can be accommodated with the existing extensions around it. Another benefit of that, if it is to go forward for approval, is it makes the overall height of the extension lower on the boundary with number 18, which is the adjoining property. So if members consider that the principle and more or less almost the whole design is acceptable, it might be in this exceptional circumstance that the flat roof may be a better option than actually trying to get what is normally a better visual appearance with a pitched roof. Thank you, Chair.
Very briefly. Yeah, we take the advice of officer, yeah? But I think if we delegate approval to officer to approve this application, we give a delegation to officer to get a better design in the pitch roof, yeah? So I think on the region of extended family, I think we need to approve this application.
We're talking. We're going along with the officer's further advice, shall we say? Because of the I mean, normally a pitch roof would look a lot better and more uniform with everything else. But this is filling in a void as well. So it's well, we've had it moved and seconded. I understand. Yeah. Did you want to have a final word?
I just want to say, as a founder member of the Flat Earth Society, I'm willing to accept Councillor Sokolo's.
So, all those in favour then of approval? Against? That concludes our meeting. Thank you very much.